planning and readiness initiatives. So before we get going too much further, hello, I'm Brad Walvort. For everybody who I have not met yet, I'm the lead of the DPSS Emergency Management team, as Jeff mentioned. And Rudy, if you want to quick say hello, so everybody knows who you are too.
Good morning, everybody. Rudy Gazvoda. I'm the Associate Director for Emergency Management.
All
Nice
right,
to meet
thank you,
everyone.
sir. Well, we just want to talk a bit this morning about really kind of a broader category. I took some liberty of building emergency readiness and kind of how we approach that and the kind of the four key focus areas we use to try to have a level of readiness that we consider within line of best practices as well as within line of standards of expectations for the university. So I'm going to share my screen and get the slides going here. Jeff, I apologize. I will get you the slides as soon as basically I'm done talking here, but I apologize I didn't get those to you yesterday.
No worries.
But they're coming, and I want to, if anybody can give me a quick thumbs up that they can see this. All right, I'm gonna thumbs up here. I'll try to zoom in too if we get too small of font here. But yeah, I took some liberty. We are going to not only talk about BERT, but kind of three other key focus areas regarding building emergency readiness. And without further delay, I'll launch in. We always kind of start here with a slide, rather a slogan, I guess you could say. This is kind of a mantra for emergency management specifically. We want to be a partner, and that's the key word there. So I won't go too much into depth on kind of the communications aspect, the marketing aspect, but really we want to be ready. And that's what we're trying to do working with you, really. And that's kind of why we're here today. Want to touch on really our four key focus areas for building emergency planning and readiness. One, I hope you're familiar with two of them in kind of some depth, but building incident response. Oh, I'll just start running through the slides here. Building emergency action plans, BEAPs. This is a bit of a terminology change from past experience. Some of you may have been familiar with BIRPs, BIRPS. We have moved away from BIRPs, building incident response plans. Building emergency action plans is kind of more of a standard terminology in line with state regulations, code, federal law, everything like that. So we figured we'd simplify it and remove some of the giggles that we'd get with burps. So building incident response teams, BERT. I hope everybody's familiar with this. If not, that's what we're here for. This is a university initiative and expectation requirement in line with our emergency operations planning framework that each facility has a team. That's BERT, and we'll get into what it is in a little bit. Briefs. This is probably something hopefully many of you are familiar with, but not everybody. This is a very powerful tool that DPSS really leverages and depends on for first responders. We'll get into what it is again, but basically it's our emergency master database for facilities on campus that we're really trying to kind of expand. And that's one of the key drivers of me being here today. And then last one, we'll only touch on COOP briefly, mainly just so that there's awareness. There's not as much engagement. I should be careful with that. It's not as heavily reliant on facility partners as other unit partners. However, awareness is good, and there likely is facility tie-ins. So making sure know what we're talking about when we talk about continuity planning, COOP plans is just kind of one thing we'll touch on really quickly. Last bit of housekeeping. I tend to talk, so please interrupt me at any point. Raise a hand. Rudy, I'll ask you to help. If somebody has comments or something in the chat, stop me. I'm happy to stop at any point and talk, discuss if there's anything uncertain. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly run through each of these four. It won't be too much in depth. Again, please stop to ask questions. I'll try to always hit on any action we're asking for or kind of really partnership engagement, and then we'll tie it together at the end very briefly. So launching in, building emergency action planning. Again, hopefully most people are familiar with this, but it is what it says it is. It's a building specific response plan focused on really critical actions, plans, needs during an emergency response. So uh, this is really kind of what I'd say is step one. Hopefully all facilities have this. If you don't, that's what we're here for. We're here to work with you on it and make sure that we're comfortable as a university, you're comfortable as a facility manager or partner, and that we're comfortable on the public safety end that we have what we need for briefs. So I'll keep tying it back to briefs. So we really think of it as a foundational resource. And if you start digging into some of the requirements out there, public safety authorities, again, regulatory authorities, it's supposed to be shared. People are supposed to know what's in it so that people can follow it, can practice it, can train to it, and that it can really help when it's needed. So that's what it is. And then why do we need it? Well, I just talked about a little bit, it is required. I mean, there's no getting around that, whether it's by, again, OSHA requirements, whether it's by our expectations, university expectations, requirements. Again, if you dig into the language on OSHA, there's kind of two key components. It should be written down, documented so that people can access it. So, but really, I want to focus on the other two bullets really quickly. Again, it supports our emergency response and emergency preparedness framework for the university. And that's kind of why we're emphasizing engagement with fun here. We believe kind of the building level is the most immediate local front-facing level of an emergency incident. It's where things are probably going to start, either the buildings or the grounds. And we want to be sure we're working as closely with facility partners as we can, again, to support that readiness. And that's because the third bullet is really, should be the first bullet, but we kind of save it for impact. We need a building emergency action plan because it can save lives, quite frankly. Bottom line, I don't really have much more to add because that's really the point we always want to emphasize here. So, um, we'll talk a little bit more about the framework here in a second, but what's in it? There's a lot that can be in it. And the point is it's tailored to your facility. We tried to lay out what the most common information is in a building emergency action plan. I won't run through these again. You'll be welcome to go through the slides and review it, reference it. But basically, anything you can think of for emergency response, keep making sure people know what they're supposed to do, how things are being communicated, where they're supposed to go, actions they're supposed to take, key information about the building that could help. And then again, what we talked about, what to do. And so that's kind of the meat of it. And again, I'm glazing over this pretty quickly. I'll spoil it right now. We have a template available on our website that we use as a baseline, a reference that we're happy to, again, share, modify, adapt as needed. But we're just outlining really what is in the emergency action plan and how to create one. Wow, good lead in there. So again, we have a template. We recommend it. I'll put a big caveat out here now that our template does not necessarily fulfill every requirement that a facility or building has to meet. Obviously, there are other university partners, subject matter experts who need to weigh in, like for hazardous materials, F&O, EHS right there. Research requirements, depending on what's being done in the building, what other materials are there. So again, think of the template as just a starting point, and it needs to be customized and adapted for the specific facility. But the last point is kind of what I want to focus on. We're kind of in a crawl, walk, run phase. Again, we hope that there's widespread knowledge and widespread plans out there, but we're hoping to really bolster briefs. And while we have a good amount of information there that our first responders can leverage, having emergency action plans in briefs will really go a long way towards enhancing our first responders' ability to respond. So we're actually asking for people to submit building emergency plans to us. And right now, we know a little rudimentary right there with an email address. We're working on a more advanced future state portal and a database for not only completing building emergency action plans, but also submitting them. That's in the future, but right now we're happy to engage directly with emails. So that's kind of one major action we're looking for today to reach out to us regarding the status of building emergency action plans in your area or to let us help work with you to submit or complete and submit them. So, but the last part I'll touch on with emergency action planning is once it's done, it's never done. An emergency action plan is kind of living. So they need to be current and shared, like we talked about, so people know what's in the plan. And then the last two, we recommend or we make recommendations regarding updates. Annually is a good target. Just verifying information is all valid. Hopefully, a lot of it doesn't change significantly, but it can. So it's good to just give it a once over and document that it's been reviewed. And then again, the last part, making sure it's shared. That's really important. And then linking it to BIRT. That's my segue to BERT, but I'm going to just make sure that I'm not flying through things too quickly. I want to be conscious of time too. Hearing nothing, we'll go right into BERT because this is kind of where the meat of our discussion lies, I should say, kind of our most valued partnership, if you will. Building Incident Response Team, the program. Basically, it's our method of having not first responders, but having partners in the building who are able to kind of be the bridge between first responders and building occupants. So it's a program that's been established at the university. It's documented in the institution's emergency operations plan to have each building with a group of trained personnel, and trained we'll talk about in a minute, who can support emergency response. And what that means, again, is not be the first responders, but to take initial actions like being the person to pull the fire alarm, being the person to direct people to evacuate as they are evacuating too, being the people to communicate with first responders, fire personnel, police who arrive on scene about building information. That's the essence of BIRT. It's really, again, to help facilitate the first responders of access and their response. So that's a high level overview of what it is. Why do we need it? We always try to include the information. Well, again, I talked about it's that foundation for our emergency response structure. Things start at a local level, and BIRT is local. So we rely on it. DPSS, first responders, they need it. It is so stark if we see an incident that has, again, engagement with building partners, local partners, as opposed to first responders going in somewhat blind. It's very different. So it's very much more effective with partners. And then lastly, again, we're hitting this point pretty hard. It can save lives. I mean, end of statement there. It just can. So how? Well, that's easy. I mean, get one established, have it trained, and that's where we're happy to help. We have a session where we can come in, work with BIRT leads, liaisons, which I'll talk about in a second, get the team oriented to what the expectations are, establish a comfort level really about what the job is. I say job, what the responsibilities are, what the areas of support are, and then documenting any needs related to BIRT. So BIRT may be able to do the BEAP. We rely on facility partners as the lead for the Building Emergency Action Plan. But if the BIRT team has been developed in partnership with facility management, it may be delegated to BIRT. That'd be great. We can make that work. So but the key is during response. That's where we talked about supporting the emergency response actions. And then it never stops when the incident's done. That's when we try to improve afterward and figure out what happened with after action reviews and improving. So that's kind of the best practices about how to keep a BIRT effective, how to utilize it. And here's how we create it. Well, again, like plans, it's pretty simple. First off, reach out to us. We're happy to help. Again, we have team members who lead trainings, who can talk through best practices, who can provide resources. But the key is really we got to identify a roster. So the roster for BIRT is made up of the BIRT liaison, which is our first contact. It's kind of the building lead. You can think of it almost as a building emergency coordinator type equivalent position. And that's who we reach out to for any BIRT needs in a building, either during response, planning, training, etc. So again, training, we harp on that. We try to push for it annually to make sure people are current. Obviously, we know at a university there's turnover. Everybody struggles with it. My team does, etc. So that's where we're really trying to establish that annual rhythm. And that's kind of why we're here today. We're trying to make sure we're staying in touch, and you can expect a more regular cadence hearing from us in the future within emergency management. And lastly, to submit the roster to us again. This is where we're trying to stay more organized on our end. And we're improving our tracking methods, our coordination methods. So again, I talked about that cadence. This contact is going to be essential for us. That was most of my BIRT overview. I'll pause again because now we're on the two final core focus areas and they are a little less intensive. So I want to be sure we're taking time, and if there are questions, I'm addressing them. Not hearing anything yet. So
Brad,
brief.
I know
Yes.
we talked briefly about it the
Yes.
other day. Where is the briefs file going to be? Is there going to be a central place where that's going to be located where it will be accessible through communications or patrol?
Yes. So actually, we just had a meeting on this earlier this week. We have an evolved platform that is actually, it's been in test production. We're starting to roll it out on the DPSS end. It is going to be a separate database. It is going to be accessible through our intranet. We're still working on partner inputs. For now, again, rudimentary, like I mentioned, in this way. In the other two areas, we're going to rely on partner inputs, not only in already established databases, like for example, I think this group is probably familiar with the F&O shutdown database. We pull from that for briefs. So in terms of updating, if you're updating there, that's helpful to us. And then it might be a little duplicitous, but we always ask for checking in with us at the email address, briefs corrections. That goes directly to DPSS, and we can manually make changes as needed. Um, I know that, again, kind of duplication of effort, but we are always encouraging people, shoot us a quick note. Ultimately, future state, I hope I'm not getting ahead of my technology partners here, but we're looking to open up the briefs database to inputs directly from partners, at least in some areas, some aspects of it. We're not there yet with that. So this will be accessible by the actual officers, either in the vehicles or through mobile devices. It's accessible to dispatch, it's accessible to any DPSS employee with an operational response need. But that's why briefs is so important. It's, again, intended to be our one-stop shop. So that was kind of a great segue to my spiel here. Um, I'll just run through a scenario here. If someone calls 911 on campus from a facility and says, "Hey, an alarm going off in this building," this is the first stop dispatch is going to look at. They're going to check briefs. They're going to pull up the building based on the address or the map functionality that's in there, and it's going to have all the relevant information we can. Emergency contacts. It's going to have special procedures if there are special research areas like biohazard areas, anything like that, secure areas. So they're going to be using that to guide procedures, and their dispatch is communicating that to officers. Officers are hopefully in it too, looking who are on the way. Officers or fire personnel, hazmat personnel, etc. So it is truly intended to be our ecosystem for emergency response. I don't know if I answered your question directly. I'd be happy actually to get your team in there because we're starting to add folks now. But this is kind of the why as to loop it back to building emergency action planning and BIRT. It's because it helps us get the information we need and thereby helping our kind of community members more effectively. And I'm seeing some comments here. Yes, acronyms. I'll do that. And yeah, Rudy already covered it. Perfect. The email address that we have to send our BERT roster to, we'll get that in as well. In fact, I want to be sure I am doing that now. Rudy, could you put the email address in there? But again, I go back to partnership. This is where we need your help and where we're asking for something. We know it might be a little extra work, but that's why we're not trying to just dump it on you and leave. We're here to help. So our contact info, I have a slide with all that, and literally call anytime. Call, email, contact me, contact my team. We'll get right on it. That's the building emergency side of the house. And I'm going to quickly pivot to the continuity side of the house. There can be gray areas between continuity and planning. I guess the simplest way I can, probably oversimplistic way I can explain it is if you think of emergency response as addressing an immediate safety situation or immediate situation that's happening right in front of your face, continuity is how do you get back to normal kind of either during, towards the end of it, or afterwards. Recovery is what we associate with continuity. So if you have a fire in a building, the emergency response is getting everybody out, accounting for safety, putting out the fire. The recovery is how do we repair damage? How do we get systems back online? How do we keep working while the building's impacted? So whereas we think of facility partners as our lead, whether it's for the building emergency action plan, who we rely on facility managers to kind of be the authority for getting it completed, or with BIRT for facility managers identifying who our BIRT teams are. Continuity, we're not necessarily coming to the facility managers first. However, there would almost certainly be a component of identifying essential systems, essential functions, essential contacts. But we're also often starting with kind of unit departmental leadership for continuity planning. So I won't go through this whole slide. You can, if you like to, when you get the slides. It just talks about what it is. Again, a plan to make sure you can continue your essential functions, why it's needed, and then how to make and maintain one. Spoiler alert, contact us. We have a template, and we're going to ask you to complete. We're going to ask those developing the COOP liaison, to send it and complete it to us as part of an annual review cycle. So I'm going to breeze through that one pretty quickly. I don't want to overload folks again. That it also transitions into the partnership and kind of where we engage with facility managers, facility partners specifically. Think of this as an integrated system, and we all are in the middle of it. I should have put public safety in the middle there too. Again, if oversimplifying, but if you want to think of preparation and planning, a plan, the BEAP, I should say. The response is the BIRT, the building incident response team, and the recovery is the continuity plan. And this is kind of the take-home slide, if you will. This is kind of the framework of our emergency planning. If the emergency operations plan is the institutional level plan, we're relying on facility partners not to lead the effort, but to, if called upon, to help support. So if we're talking a major disaster where, let's say, a tornado wrecks buildings or there's a building collapse, we're going to be obviously contacting facility leadership for that. But taking it more down to the local level, the building emergency action plan guides what would be done in the first moments at that building. So that's where the facility partner role is kind of lead the plan development, quite frankly. And the BIRT role for facility managers is make sure we've established a team. Work with us to identify the team. It might be facility leadership or management or partners that are on the BIRT team. It might not be. It doesn't have to be. But we have to work with you to identify who the team is. And then lastly, COOP support, more supporting, provide information that's needed to whoever the COOP liaison is and the unit leadership. That was a lot of me talking, a lot of me talking. So I am going to stop. That kind of concludes everything we've put together to present, and we wanted to be sure there was time for a dialogue, not to steal all the time from Lieutenant Carelli either. And also, we're going to be sending an email after this, Jeff, to kind of wrap up just a few paragraphs, not paragraphs, sorry, don't like paragraphs, a few sentences, and kind of with our ask to, hey, here's the three things that we are asking for action on, and here's how to contact us, which leads me to the contact information. This is just a sample. I'm happy to provide my phone number. Actually, I'll put it in the chat right now. Feel free to save that, call it, reach out for whatever's needed. Again, this is not do it tomorrow type thing. We're asking for partnership over the course of the summer. Really, we want to try to build a bigger foundation by the start of the next academic year. Our target is to kind of have some plans within have some a level of awareness on our end of our database, our plans by the start of the classes. So middle of August is what we're shooting for. We're going to be coming around and reaching out to folks, like I mentioned, the email to the fund group broader, but also potentially doing some individual outreach. So be ready for that. Question from Laura: how many people within a building do you recommend are educated, aware of the BERT? Um, oh, BEAP. The guidance is everybody. So if there's a way to post it, that's one area where we're looking to eventually build towards a database where it can be accessible. If it means that we need to have like an orientation session at the beginning of a year, an academic year, et cetera, where the fundamentals are walked through, that's helpful. If it's stored in an office somewhere or stored in a website or on a website, I guess I should say, making it accessible, that's important. It's not something we're trying to hide. Sure, some areas of it may be sensitive, so that's why we try to organize it with appendices where the base plan, you cover what we consider the basics. Hey, building occupants need to know how we evacuate, where our assembly areas are, what we need to do in the event of a fire or active attacker, et cetera. And then the appendices, more building specific information that doesn't have to necessarily be completely public facing. But the BEAT plan itself, the goal is for people to know it. So ideally, everybody at if we have to break it down, supervisors and professors, educators, et cetera, who can then communicate the content of the plan to their employees or their students or their classes would be acceptable, I guess. So
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up while you were talking, Brad, it made me grab my BERT book. I don't know if nobody can see it because of the blur, but I've got, geez, it goes all the way back to 2013, when BERT was I guess first launched, it looks like. But there's a section in there about recommended equipment to keep on hand. And it mentions an 800 megahertz radio with UMPD access. Um, is with the 800 megahertz, is that the same frequency that has the monthly subscription fee to it, do you know, or is maybe that a question for the radio shop?
I want to check with the radio shop on that. I'm
Okay.
not entirely sure how the model is being managed these days, especially going back that far. I know the radio system is, I'll call it, the radio architecture is complex across campus, so I don't want to mislead anybody right now. I'd be happy to follow up with John Hirsch to
Okay.
check that.
Yeah, because I know we keep radios in the building just for facilities and BERT response
If you're
anyway.
working on the plant frequencies, that is within interoperability of our radios, generally.
Okay.
Generally.
I
So
would say, yeah, we're outside of that.
okay.
But I mean anything, would be
Radio
better than
follow.
nothing, right?
Got it. Yep.
So yeah, so I don't know. We do keep a an emergency cabinet here with a lot of these. One thing we didn't do was put a whistle on it, but we've got flashlights, gloves, masks, all that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
And just a reminder, anybody that keeps those cabinets, keep an eye on your batteries for your emergency lighting, or your expiration dates on your first aid kits or your masks and everything, because it's easy to forget about when it's just sitting there waiting.
That brings up another point, kind of the concept Jeff just demonstrated that oftentimes we give these presentations, these discussions, we engage, and we're talking the baseline levels, and people have gone above and beyond. Example right there, which is awesome. We love to hear that. We're not trying to rein people in and saying, no, you have to do this. That's where we're willing to work with you. I'll use LSNA example. I hope nobody, Mike, and nobody gets mad at me. I've seen the Google Drive, just folders of emergency access information, etc. That's awesome. We're not necessarily saying scrap that, do this template only. We want to work with you on what works best for you, while making sure everybody's good with like expectations. Again, expectations
Mm.
either from the regulatory, the legal side, or the university expectations. So I'm not trying to scare anybody here. I'm not saying scrap everything you're doing. We do encourage, again, the template's helpful, but the written component of a plan that can be shared is really important. So actually, that's good. That's a good suggestion, Laverne. We will work on that to, actually, that's a good point too. We're in the process of updating our website information. So we are actively seeking feedback. What would be helpful for you to see on the website, in trainings, everything? So emergency list of supplies and items. Rudy, we're taking that down. We're going to take it back to Trent and our team here to see what else we can add with our strategic communications partners for the website. We'll get that information to you, Laverne. We're noting it down, but I'm also speaking to make it easier for everybody else to find.
Yeah, we like to call it BERT Plus here, where we not only have the basics of BERT, but we also re we have our vests that are pre-printed that say BERT and BERT liaison on them, so it can be identified easily throughout the building. We also offer here that the school does pay for anybody to volunteers for BERT. We do AED first aid CPR training. We
Awesome.
do mental health intervention, so you know not to escalate before you can get a professional. We'll do fire extinguisher training. We do Narcan training here. Just if anybody wants that knowledge, and it's not required, we just have it as an optional thing that we just keep adding every year to it. And we seem to get a lot of positive comments from other schools that when we tell them what we do here. So
Well,
um,
we're already hitting my contingency notes here because one thing I was going to ask if there's anybody who feels pretty confident about their BERT status, and we know of a few. Jeff mentioned his team, and we're very aware of that. If you'd be willing to, if we get questions from other schools, units, facilities about, hey, how do we do this? And are there any other teams that have best practices out there? If we'd be willing to connect folks, and if you'd be willing to. So if you do feel pretty good about your BERT status, please reach out to us, or if we reach out to you about would you be willing to talk with this facility partner about some BERT enhancements, just to practices, etc. We're open. We're requesting volunteers, I guess I should say.
yeah, and Fun will absolutely volunteer to help at any time
Awesome.
with this. So we've even talked in the past about having a subcommittee of just BERT experts
We would love
that
that.
can be
We would
reachable at any
help
time.
in any way we can. We'd endorse that. We'd promote that. And we're happy to help get off the ground too. So,
Awesome.
oh, thanks, Laverne. Well, I threw a lot at everybody. This was not intended to be a I'm here once and you're going to hear from me again, or you better have processed it all and I'm not following up. No, no, no. Questions directly to me, to the team, to Jeff, to funnel to me. Sorry, Jeff, putting you in the way.
No
If
worries.
something strikes in a couple days, inspiration strikes, thought strikes, again, reach out. We're here. We want to be continuing to partner. It's not just, again, annual cycle. You hear from us once. No, this is a round the clock thing. So
Yeah,
well, that
Laverne, you're
concludes.
ready to go, huh? Thank you.
Well, thanks for listening to me, everybody. And now I'll stop talking and I'll be ready to hear for help how we can.
Any more questions for Brad or Rudy before we move on to Tony and Chris? Awesome. All right. Tony, take it away.
So before we turn it over, Jeff, I will say I'm going to promote one of Tony's programs. It's a Stop the Bleed. I don't know if you guys have had it, but that would be a wonderful addition to your BIRT teams and actually anybody in your building in the event of an active attack or sometimes even a serious accident. It's a great program. We get very positive feedback from that. And if Tony wants to briefly talk about that, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks, LT. It's basically a introduction to what to do in the event that you're experiencing or in the presence of someone who's had an arterial bleed. A massive amount of blood loss, and minutes matter in that sense. And it doesn't make you, overly responsible. It isn't taught in a way that's gory or, to inoculate you to these types of things. It's taught in just an introductory way to allow you to apply pressure mostly and introduce you to the use of a tourniquet if you do have one present or do choose to have one in your building. I think it's a great situational awareness, and it empowers you to be able to act in those situations because in the instance of that, it might be a BIRT member who's there first as the first responder is en route. And on a good day in town here, it might take 10 minutes for an ambulance to get there. And in some of these situations, someone could potentially lose their life in 2 or 3 minutes from a severe laceration and so forth. So buying that person time by knowing what to do in that moment is important. So that's something that we can do. We have some training aids, and there's several of us that are instructors, and we can bring that out. Usually takes about an hour and a half to go through that. It involves a presentation, slide presentation, and then a hands-on. But the hands-on is done in a way to just introduce you to that thing. Like I said, those training aids are involved with that application of a tourniquet and so forth. So I encourage you to reach out to the community engagement unit at DPSS if that's something that you can interest you, and then we can talk about bringing that to your BIRT team.
And before I get started, I believe I just want to introduce and let her say a few words. Our police chief, Crystal James, I'm pretty sure she's on this meeting. And she sent me a text saying she has not been to one in a very long time. So she would like to reintroduce herself and say hello to everybody.
Good morning, everyone. I didn't know if you were aware that I am the police chief for the University of Michigan Police Department. I've been with the university for 34 years. And it's such an honor to be on this meeting today, just to listening to the great resources that DPSS has to offer. And the biggest thing is the partnership with you. As being overseeing the police department, we can't be everywhere all the time. And so we look for our partners. You guys are definitely our eyes and ears. You have our support, and we know that you support us. And so I just wanted to so you can put a name with the face, know who your police chief is. I'm always available, so you're welcome to call the police department, ask for Chief James. I mean, I can't take over 100 calls at one time, but I am certainly open to talking to anyone if you have any questions about anything. And again, just thank you for being here today to listen to the great services that are being offered, by DPSS. And like I said, it's the most important thing is just the partnership that we have, and we so much appreciate it, and I personally appreciate it. So have a good morning, and I'll have to leave the meeting. I've got another meeting to attend, but just thank you again for being in attendance.
Thank you
And for
very
everybody,
much.
Chief James really enjoys you calling and singing to her, and that's something she loves. I don't have a slide presentation like Brad had. Tony and I are kind of used to just going into meetings and winging things, but what we wanted to talk about was kind of the new patrol philosophy with regards to response to incidents. And I wrote down during Brad's presentation at least 5 times the word partnership. And that's what we're really going to talk about, because Tony and I just got back from a conference in Texas, and one of the things that I took from there is the community is the police and the police is the community. We're not always there, and when it comes to problem solving, it takes the entire community to come to successful resolutions, because if we don't have that partnership, you're basically just contracting a law enforcement to try to do things for you. And it's great having the resources of the emergency management team. We've been working with Brad quite a bit. When I came back to Ann Arbor in June, I noticed that a lot of things fell on the community engagement team. And not that I'm lazy, I'm a little lazy, but I'm not that lazy. I quickly siphoned off a lot of things that were coming into the community engagement program. For example, like alarm testing and things that would go to physical securities, or questions that would come into community engagement that would actually be in Brad's wheelhouse over in emergency management. And that's really kind of leading into the partnership that we're looking for with, I believe the acronym is POP, Problem Oriented Policing. It's nothing new. We used to do it back in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. It was very successful. But as anything else in law enforcement, something new pops up, and right away we jump on it and say, "Hey, we need to try that." And now we're kind of moving back towards that. And the difference between POP and community engagement, we're still in community engagement. We're going to be responsible for educational materials, programs like our women's empowerment, self-defense, workplace violence, active attacker stuff, and any type of education that needs to be provided, we're still going to be responsible for. But when it comes to, if there's a huge larceny problem, say in the Rackham building or something like that, we're going to have patrol operations, which will include, I believe Lieutenant Williams is on the line as well today. She's going to set up meetings with Susan, and we're going to work together as teams with the officers that are assigned to that patrol area. And they're going to work in cooperation with the building managers, the BIRT teams that are put together, and come up with those types of solutions. Because at the end of the day, you guys know your buildings the best, and you may have practical solutions that we haven't even thought of. And that's what we're really looking for. The one thing I want to mention is anytime, we like to, throw change out there, is that people are always hesitant for change. The one thing I will say about the POP program is it has been proven to reduce crime. It doesn't happen overnight. Take a big city like Milwaukee PD, almost 1,000 officers. And 3 years ago, they went back to the POP program. And what they saw initially was the police officers didn't accept it. And but they found after about 300 days, close to a year went by, crime dropped almost 11%, which is really unheard of when we're talking about crime reduction. Usually the only way to accomplish that is to eliminate 11% of the population that's committing those crimes, right? And they were able to do it. They didn't skew their stats like you see some agencies doing, to say, oh yeah, our violent crime is non-existent, and they just reclassified what violent crime actually means. And they didn't do that. They didn't skew their stats. And then after that, once that partnership and cooperation was formed, the officers' job satisfaction went up by close to 19%, because they were actually able to focus a lot more on law enforcement activities, because the community members decided to take accountability and responsibility for their own safety and took those steps that were necessary to protect themselves. And that's what we're going to be asking of our community. We can't be there 24/7. That partnership and that responsibility has to fall partially on the shoulders of the community members in order to stay safe, to provide the best safety planning. One of the things it also does is it enhances the trust. Obviously everybody watches the news, right? And we see all the horrible, horrible things that police officers are doing because that's the only thing that they put on the news nowadays, right? What the POP program does is it puts a name and a face to the police officers that you are going to see on a daily basis. And it's going to be the same police officers, right? So they're going to be assigned to an area. I don't know what the time frame is for how long. I believe we're looking at possibly close to a year. So you're going to see the same police officers responding to your building day in and day out. You're going to have their contact information where you can reach out to them if problems start developing. So what it does is it allows you to develop those relationships, which, when you develop a relationship, that's what develops the trust. Tony, did you have anything that you wanted to add? I jotted down a bunch of notes, and I got to throw my glasses on to read them because I'm getting old.
No, I don't think I have anything else. Just that distinction between kind of what we still do and what you're familiar with, what I have done with many of you already. We are still available for those outreach or to initiate those problem-oriented policing in the field by the officers who are on the road every day. So you're not having to decide who you contact. If you're familiar with contacting myself or Lieutenant Carelli, then we can still work within that. We're still a part of that team, but there will be sides of the road, if you will. We'll be on one side of staying in our lane and the other side, and hopefully being more efficient and bringing those solutions to you. I'll mention that I put a QR code and a training link in the chat just for requesting training, going back to that Stop the Bleed or any of the other educational pieces that the DPSS community engagement team offers, so forth. So no, other than that, thank you, LT.
Lieutenant Williams, I saw your name on the list. Did you want to introduce yourself and talk about what your plans are moving forward with the integration of the POP program into patrol?
Of course. Good morning, everyone. My name is Lieutenant Paula Williams, and I am one of 3 of our patrol lieutenants at U of M PD. My main focus is building this problem-oriented policing program. I'll tell you, I'm very excited because the vast majority of our officers, everybody, because I also sit on the hiring panel, has mentioned how one of the reasons they got into law enforcement is to work within the community, and they love working out here on campus. And all we're doing is leveraging that desire to help the community and help build those relationships that Lieutenant Corelli spoke of. Yes, the officers have been assigned to a particular area. As many of you know, we have beat areas for the police officers. That's their primary focus. They'll be working together as a team. So when issues pop up in an area, they use the group mindset to try to help. Okay, how can we work together to get it figured out or get it resolved? I know in the past, specifically on North Campus, one of our previous officers, he was awesome at that. Like, hey, everybody's calling Kurt if they've got an issue. Where's Officer Coates at? And we want that with our new generation of police officers. We want to have that same thought process, build those same relationships, because you guys know your areas better than we do. And we want to make sure we get everybody taken care of as we continue to grow as a university and truly to have people be safe. So, in addition to our officers that are assigned to each of the teams, so are our supervisors. So you'll start seeing a lot more staffing of our community substations. We're still looking for more areas so that the officers are more readily available, just in case something happens. And then also too, if you want to stop by and say hi, they're doing reports and staffing our community offices as well on each of the campuses.
Thanks, LT. One of the things that we did in community engagement as well, and I know we've talked about this, is our 3 community engagement officers have also been assigned to specific beat areas. So in addition to seeing the police officers on a regular basis, you will be contacting the same community engagement officer. Like Tony's taking care of the stuff up on North Campus primarily. Officer Harvey works on the athletic campus, and we just recently stole somebody from Lieutenant Williams by the name of Darian Greeley, and he is going to be responsible for the central campus area. So you'll be seeing a lot of him. One of the things that the POP program, and I don't think we've mentioned it, is that helps it work and helps develop those partnerships is regular meetings. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be reaching out to the building managers, the building facilitators and stuff like that, and trying to set up meetings with people that need to be there, just so we can introduce people who you're going to contact and you know, really have that direct line to reach out to us when problems do arise. And we want you calling us for everything. If if it's not a law enforcement related problem, our officers should be able to point you in the right direction as to who needs to go there to fix that. And like I said, one of the wonderful things with the division right now is that we actually have the staffing. I know Brad was a one person unit in emergency management for a long time, and our physical properties or physical securities director, he was a one person unit at one time. We're starting to get those staffing levels where we need that we can all sit down and problem solve together. I'm on the phone with Brad probably 2 or 3 times a week. Where does this fall? And it's really nice to be able to put those problems in the right areas. And that's why we want you guys coming to us with those issues, because now we have a team approach here at the police department and at the division, so that we're able to quickly problem solve and anything that comes at us. I don't really have a lot more for that. As the program moves forward, we're probably going to be reaching out to the community members a lot more, which includes everybody on this Zoom meeting. And that partnership is key. And Brad talked about it and probably mentioned the word partnership 5 or 6 times. You're going to hear it more and more from us in all of our meetings, because it is so important to have that safe community, really for everybody. When you guys participate in your own safety, it makes it safety for our responding officers as well, because everybody's on the same page. Tony, did you have anything else you wanted to add, or if anybody has any questions about how we're moving forward with this, and the distinction between what we do from community engagement and then what Lieutenant Williams is doing with the POP program? And I do want to say, Brad, I really like the BIRT acronym because I have the maturity level of a 12-year-old. So if we can work that into a couple more meetings, that would be great.
We'll take that under advisement, but we had a lot of discussion about it, surprisingly.
I say I'm a fan myself. When I met with Brad, several weeks ago to talk about this meeting, I'm like, no, that's perfect. Keep the name.
I will say, when talking with outside partners, we got a few questions that maybe didn't make the juice worth the squeeze. So,
so LT, is there an opportunity to do a meet and greet with these officers, or maybe let them have some time in each building to just be seen, especially in those buildings where there's faculty that may be against guns and badges, where they can get their face out and say, hey, I'm not that bad after all?
Yes, 100%. That is our main focus, is to get our officers out of the car and into the buildings, to meet and greet, just say hi, so that it's not always a negative situation where we're responding, right? Because at the end of the day, when you have that pre-existing relationship, I'm gonna throw Shannon Rice under the bus just because I see her on there. It's a lot easier for us to work together when I work events and stuff, because I understand what her priorities are as, the focus for that event. And I can make sure that my team is in order and helping her out and supporting. It's the same thing from a response perspective for patrol officers. If I know how, um, things are supposed to work for each individual area, I have a better understanding of how I'm supposed to respond and what would be most effective in that sense. So yes, we encourage that. We plan to have a lot more visibility, meet and greets with the officers. Just fun times to build that relationship, so people, not just for the pure response, but to get ahead of things. You feel a lot more comfortable coming to somebody if you know them, rather than, just calling, 911 or 31131 for help. It's a lot easier to say, hey, Paula, can I run this by you real quick? And then I, with my, knowledge, say, you know what, I may not be the best person for that. Let me get you connected with Lieutenant Corelli because he has this area and he would be a better resource than I would. So that's what we're trying to make that connection. So to answer your question, yes, we're coming around.
Perfect. I would not say no to a nice ice cream social on the Diag for people to come out and meet everybody.
Yes, I'm here for it. Especially with this beautiful sunshine we just recently got. I'm here for it.
When Director Hawkins gets back from vacation, we're going to talk about purchasing an ice cream truck and seeing if we can get that rolling a little bit. I'm an ice cream fan personally, so I think that would be a wonderful addition to the community engagement team. But Jeff, on a serious note, Lieutenant Williams has been in charge of patrol for a couple of years now, and she always encourages the officers to get out and in the buildings. And it really has been working. And Tony will back me up on this. We are being asked to do presentations in areas that we have never been invited into before. And it's actually it's a wonderful situation. I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus and say which areas those are, but we really are being invited into places that you would never expect them to invite the police in to talk about what we do, talk about, the climate on campus, and things like that. So the patrol officers are out there. They're getting in the buildings already. They're introducing themselves. They're talking about what we do. And then to piggyback on that, then Tony and I are getting invited into areas to do training sessions, to talk about educational things that we provide. So it's already starting to work. We can see it. And we haven't even really put the program into place yet.
Awesome.
I just want to say one thing in closing to all of facility management to support Brad in his effort with the BIRT teams, because at 24-year veteran that I am, and 20 years I spent responding to calls directly before I came to community engagement. I can tell you that those BIRT teams were so solid when I would come to a call. They're so important, and it really is true about that bridge to public safety, to first responders, and how important it is to get to that efficient handling of that call, to get that building back into operation or whatever, and to have that ready available. So I encourage you to really get those BIRT teams because it means a lot to me as an officer, and I've spent a fair amount of time answering those calls, and those people are invaluable to me, and I don't want it to be minimized or seen as less than valuable to those. When you see a uniform show up, we have a particular set of skills, and we need to combine that with your particular set of skills and then handle that situation uniquely, which each one of these buildings are unique. So thank you.
Yeah, we had a medical incident in the building a few weeks ago, and I know when DPSS and HVA responds, they know to look for the vests, but this one, for some reason, all call went out and AAFD showed up and we had everybody. And I can tell you the Ann Arbor people were so impressed that BIRT even existed. And we met them at the door and had an escort and an elevator hold and kept the looky-loos away while that person was being treated and everything. And we were the talk of the city for a little while, and it was a good feeling. And the HVA and the officers that responded were like, yeah, this is what we want.
Yep,
So,
it is on separate levels, and together they make that response efficient. So
We just got back from Dallas, Tony and I did, and the one thing that I took from that conference, and not to blow smoke here, and is that as a department and as a university, we really are ahead of other universities, whether it be the community engagement team, which I will brag about all day long, or patrol operations, or our emergency management team. What they were talking about implementing across their agencies, we've done, if 2-3 years ago. So as a department, as a university, as a community, we really are way far ahead of other organizations when it comes to the safety of our university and our university community.
Yeah, I'm really impressed with the programs and everything that's in place. It's fantastic. Absolutely. And always looking forward to making it better, you know? Perfect. Anybody have any questions or anything?
Go for it. I'll help you.
No? Going once? Wow, y'all did such a good job. Look at that. Like Brad said, or anybody, honestly, if you have any questions, reach out to everybody individually, reach out to the fund group. We'll forward your messages. We'll be more than happy to plan anything again if we need to get together, talk again. Um, maybe organize a meet and greet on the diag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just make sure we follow the food truck rules if we get an ice cream. F&O Outdoor Events needs to be involved. And I do have one slide to share just before we go. Thank you everybody for presenting. The Office of Sustainability and Innovation has asked that I just share this slide really quick. Hopefully you can see it there. Office supply reuse days is coming back. I know we've been doing that here at a school level for several years. It was good to see, I don't know, about 5, 6 years ago, it got really large throughout the entire campus. So please, if you've got anything to share, good condition office supplies, no electronics or anything, but it is beneficial. Anything that is not collected in the shopping days for our university peeps are given to local organizations, nonprofits, and stuff like that afterwards. So nothing goes to waste. So there'll be a series of emails going out about this. There already has been a couple of them, but if you haven't, feel free to reach out to recycle@umich.edu for more information. Awesome. So I'll stop sharing that for now. And unless anybody has anything, this has been a great meeting.
One more thing, Jeff.
Sure.
I do want to promote a lot of people out there. They know Candace. She puts on a wonderful self-defense program. We do have a DPSS Friends and Family program coming up Thursday, June 18th. You can register for it online. You can just show up and take advantage of her brilliant instruction that she provides. Our whole team will be there to assist her. But once again, that's Thursday, June 18th. If anybody's interested, and we talk about partnerships, and that's a really good way to meet some of our officers, because a lot of our officers bring family members to the workshop.
Yeah, we've had Candace here a few times, and it's fantastic. It's time to have her back. Awesome.
If you give me 1 minute, I'll put that in the chat. See if I can do that. If anybody's interested. Otherwise, if you want to go before that, then I will.
Tony, I was trying to figure out how to put it in the chat too, but I didn't want to embarrass myself.
Well, let's see here. I think I got it. If you give me right here, hopefully that comes up. Oh, no, I think it just went to Tony because he sent me a everyone. Here we go. There we go.
Very
It's
nice.
got the QR code on there to RSVP.
Cool. We'll add this to our internal signage here and see if we can get some participation. Awesome. This will also go up on the fun website a little bit later today. As soon as Brad gets me the slides, we'll get everything posted, and as soon as the recording's ready, we'll post that as well for everybody. All right, thank you everybody. Enjoy the rest of the week, and we'll see next on the 18th is our last meeting of the year. We're going to be touring the Headley Rec building. And then we'll take a break for the rest of the summer. So we'll see everybody on the 18th for the building tour. Thank you, everybody.